in today's episode, we are talking about 10 rules for how to change your life, health and fat loss edition. At what point are we going to say, you know what, I'm going to do the thing I don't want to do? Because again, you have to remember, no one is coming to save you. If you do not save yourself, you are going to find yourself on your deathbed with every struggle that you have had for your entire life. Whatever it is you're resisting is going to hold you captive. Resistance is always required. The problem is, a lot of you listening to this, you're expecting one thing but enabling the other. You want freedom, but you enable mental incarceration. We hear right now in the personal development and coaching space of, well, what's your why? You need a why that makes you cry. I love that. That's great. But when you are ready to throw in the towel and every fiber in your body says, I want to stop, and sabotage and resistance is fighting you, the happy, positive why is more than likely not going to be strong enough. Psychology shows us that there are two things that drive human behavior: pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you're new around here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton, and I'm your host every single week. And if you have been around for a while, I really, really appreciate you as well. The returning guests are always mean a lot to me. So if you come to the show every week and you're always listening to this, whether it be on your walks, on your commutes to work, or at the gym or whatever, it means a ton to me to be in a kind of a weird way part of your regular life in your day to day. It means the world. So thank you for that. Now, today's episode, it's funny. It kind of hit me at basically 4:30 in the morning, this morning at the time of recording this, because don't get me wrong, I wasn't getting up that early to work and I wasn't like staying up that late, but I had trouble sleeping last night a little bit, and all of a sudden, sometimes as a content creator, I just get hit with these ideas out of nowhere. And I kind of woke up at 4:30 this morning, and this idea just kind of hit me. So I did the most important thing possible, and I wrote it down. So in today's episode, we are talking about 10 rules for how to change your life, health and fat loss edition. It kind of reminds me, I actually haven't read it. I've heard great things about it though. I think it was a Jordan Peterson book, like 10 Rules for Life, or the 12 Rules for Life, or something like that. And I like the concept of that. Like, hey, just follow these rules and principles and everything else will take care of itself. So these are kind of my 10 rules for changing your life, health and weight loss, or fat loss specifically edition. Because I'm assuming if you're listening to my show called Dieting from the Inside Out, it's because these are more of your goals. Now, don't get me wrong. These 10 rules will help you if you utilize these in other areas in your life. It's like anything that's great always scales to everything else. So, because it's one of those things where wherever you go, there you are. So as you change yourself at a really deep level, you show up as a different person anywhere else you go. So now, before we get into all of the 10 rules, be sure to subscribe to the show. If you have not subscribed or left a review of the show, you are missing out on knowing when I have more shows coming up that are going to be radically changing to your life. But also, that is how we can help get this podcast and this content to more ears. Because the truth is, if you have found value in this and the content's helped you and it's changed your perspective, well, we need to get that to other people as well. Because I don't want to gatekeep all this information. And you leaving a review and subscribing to the show is one of the greatest ways I can help climb through the ranks in the podcast world. So if you would, it would mean a ton to me if you would leave a review of the show wherever you're listening to this on, Apple, Spotify, whatever. It would mean a ton to me. So, okay, but otherwise, let's get into all of the goods. Let's start talking about the 10 rules for how to change your life, health and fat loss edition. Okay. Number one, if you're watching the YouTube and you see me looking at my phone, it's because I have all my notes on here. So I'm not just like texting someone while I'm just podcasting. So, okay, let's dive in. Rule number one, realize no one is coming to save you. You are your only hope. Because here's the thing. I didn't want to approach this list of 10 rules like what every other health or weight loss influencer, diet person, coach would say. Well, a calorie deficit, high protein, strength training. Like, yeah, I'm taking this deeper. You don't come to a show called Dieting from the Inside Out and you're not looking for deeper, more helpful, more thought-provoking, more thought-leading content. You know you should be in a calorie deficit. You know you need more protein. You know you need strength training. I will leave all of that content for other people. I know you're coming here because you want the deeper stuff that is actually going to make a massive difference. Not that the other stuff won't make a difference, but like the show talks about, like I talk about in the show, outer work without inner work doesn't work. So we have to go deeper. So this is why rule number one is understanding no one is coming to save you. You are your only hope. Here's what I mean by that. It is up to you to change your life. Like, yeah, you may listen to content like this. Yeah, you may hire a coach. You could even maybe even hire me. You maybe having people in your life holding you accountable, whatever the case is. But you are your only hope. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to make sure you get to bed on time. No one is coming to save you when you want to dive into an emotional eating session and eat your pantry dry. Instead, you should be going and journaling instead. No one is coming to do that for you. No one is coming to hold your hand. No one is coming to slap the food out of your hand or wire your mouth shut. Those are ones I've been hearing a lot lately. You are your only hope. Here's the cool part. That means you can be your own savior. A lot of people hear that like you're like, oh, I'm my only hope. And it's like, fuck. But that's incredible. You can be the hero of your own story. We all like good rags to riches story. We all like the Marvel movies where like, oh my gosh, life is getting really bad, but the Avengers come in and save the day. Like you can do that for yourself. No one is saving you. This is the hardest part about what I do. I get interviewed and people will be asking, I've had to ask like, what's the hardest part about your job, Jared? What's the hardest part about coaching people? And it's I can't make you desire. There have been more cases than I can count that I have wanted the goal for more than the client does. Or I see the potential in someone and I just see how we are just 1 or 2 steps away from a radically different life. But I can't force someone's hand. Here's the cool part. You have this cool thing called free will. You can be your own hero. You can be your own savior. You can come in, quite literally swoop in and save the day of your own life. The problem is most people have to let their life hit rock bottom before they're willing to change it. I would just encourage you, if you're watching this, don't let it get that low. But there are some people who have to gain 100 pounds before they go, oh shit. Some people have to almost have their kidneys shut down before they go, oh no, I should probably start taking this seriously. Some people have to lose their marriage, lose their everything they love most, lose their independence until they go, I should probably get my shit together. Here's the thing. I can't tell when that moment is for you, but I can tell you it's a much easier road if you can foresee ahead your rock bottom, right? Most of the people that I work with in like a coaching dynamic are middle-aged and older, right? Let's say 40, 50 and older is kind of the average. But it is so cool when I get like a 25-year-old who goes, yeah, I know if I don't fix this now, I will not stop. I will struggle forever. And then this 25-year-old has only 10 pounds to lose and a little bit of binge eating to work through. That is so much easier to handle, and we fix it then versus letting that go on and spiral till they're 45. Now their 10 pounds is 70, and their binge eating is so disordered and is so crazy and is so much more difficult to work through. Whereas like, cool, if we would have addressed this 15 years ago, like it wouldn't have spun out of control. So some of you listening to this, I'm hoping maybe you can like look into the future a little bit and go, wow, if I don't change this is going to happen. Right. So you have to realize, and this is why I'm really harping on this first rule, is no one's coming to save you. A lot of times people think like, oh, well, you know, the medical field will come in and save the day and have some intervention or have some pill or powder or shot or potion, or, oh, you know, I'll eventually get this figured out, or, oh, I'm going to wait till life slows down, or I'm going to wait till, you know, someone else can help hold me accountable. Stop it. No, that shit doesn't happen. You need to show up for yourself now. No one is coming to save you. You have to take a lot of radical ownership over yourself. This is where, don't get me wrong, there's levels of depth to some of this stuff where like, I know what to do, but don't do it. And self-sabotage. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a time and place to talk about that stuff. But here's the other thing that I think we need to hear more. You're not helpless. I've had like as a coach, if someone isn't being consistent or disciplined or showing up in their actions with their plan, part of my role is maybe we need to audit the plan and dial it back. If going to the gym 3 days a week is too big of an ask, let's go to 1. If going to the gym is too big of an ask, maybe we need to work out at home. If working out at home is too big of an ask, maybe we start with a different habit. But here's the thing, you can only scale back so far. You're not helpless. A lot of people say, I just can't get, I just don't, I know exactly what I should do. I just don't do it. Cool. Well, if the plan is practical, sustainable, doable, the question is like, why aren't you doing it? We have to eventually like realize that we are independent humans that no one is coming to save, but yourself with your life, and you have to put the plan to pavement. Yes, sustainable matters. Yes, practicality matters. Yes, adaptability matters. Yes, all those things matter. But there's some of you listening to this that need to be told you're not helpless. You need to get your fucking ass in gear. I've seen so many people go like, oh, Jared, I just can't bring myself to make my bed. Like, if you can't make your bed, it's not because you don't have time, you don't have the energy, you don't have the money, it's like you're acting helpless right now. Make the fucking bed. Like I've had people like, again, guys, I've been doing this coaching thing for like over a decade. And I've had people where I've like literally dialed their plan back so much where they're like, I just can't bring myself to drink the glass of water. I just can't bring myself to like sit in silence for 5 minutes. I just can't bring myself to walk for 10 minutes. Here's the problem. Maybe it's because you don't want it bad enough. Again, please don't take this out of context. There are levels of, yes, there's psychology intertwined in this. There is having an understanding of things. There's self-sabotaging behaviors. There's sustainability. There's all of that. Don't get me wrong. But there is the level to this of like, maybe you just don't want the thing that you say you want that bad. I've seen more people than I can count who say, it's like, I'm saying the reason I'm bringing this up is I've seen it in so many cases where you always find what you're looking for. If you're looking for an excuse deep down, you will find it. Or like, oh, I know I should walk. I got to walk 3 days a week. Cool. Well, I don't want to go to the gym and walk. Cool. Well, walk in your hallways at your apartment or walk around your house. Well, I get bored. Okay. Well, walk and like listen to music or watch a movie on your phone or watch Netflix. Well, but then it's not very entertaining. Like at what point are we going to say, you know what? I'm going to do the thing I don't want to do. Because again, you have to remember, no one is coming to save you. Not a soul is coming to save you. If you do not save yourself, you are going to find yourself on your deathbed with every struggle that you have had for your entire life. That is rule one. Okay. I'm not going to spend as much time on each of those, but I really want to set the precedence for this. Number 2, rule 2 for changing your life, health and fat loss edition. You don't have to do as much as you think. You just have to be more consistent and for longer than you think. When it comes to changing your life with health, weight loss, fat loss, all this stuff, most people severely overestimate how much they have to do. But the truth is, you don't have to do that many things. You just have to do the things more consistently and longer than you think. We were just having a collective call. If you don't know, I have a coaching group called the Dieting from the Inside Out Collective. We have calls every week with the members in there. And we had a call the other night and we were talking about things like this that you can do to help lose, like the topic for the call was basically how to specifically lose weight without tracking calories. Specifically, so you don't even have to focus on that to lose the weight. Well, one of the things we were talking about is small things you can add, because in this whole talk was not about things you take away, but things you can add. So not only losing weight without tracking calories, but only adding things. You add the right things, you subconsciously eat less kind of mentality. Well, one of the things that we were talking about that you can add is just walking. So for example, Coach Grant, who helps me run that group, he was talking about and telling a story about how he has a client who basically they didn't do hardly that much crazy stuff in her plan. And mind you, for results wise, she lost like 30 pounds of body fat and fitting in clothes, and her life is incredible. But all he added with her was journaling for her emotions. So every time she felt the urge to emotionally eat, she would journal. And she went on a like a 30 or 40 minute walk on her lunch break at work. 30 pounds gone. Literally. Now this client like loves hiking. She has all these intrinsic goals and feelings around this stuff. So she's lost 30 pounds. She loves the way she looks. She loves the way she feels. And now she looks forward to hikes, going on walks, and she makes them part of her life because her life is better with them. She didn't do anything crazy. They didn't overhaul anything. He literally just changed 2 things with her. Had her start journaling her emotions and holding space and walking on her lunch break at work. 30 pounds disappeared. So in this analogy, in this story, it's not that she did more things. It's that she did the right things, just a couple things, more consistently and for longer. Did those for 6 months straight. So imagine if I said, hey, all I want you to do is journal for your emotions and go on a walk at your lunch break for the next 6 months. And I said, and you'll lose 30 pounds. You probably wouldn't believe me. So you have to understand the other rules. That's why rule number 2 is you don't have to do as much as you think. You don't have to change as many habits. You don't have to make these crazy life-altering habits where you're flipping your whole lifestyle upside down and sideways. We just have to change 1 or 2 things, but we have to do them longer than we think and more consistently than we think. Okay. Next, moving on. Uber Eats is giving me updates right now, apparently. Number 3, 10 rules for how to change your life, health and fat loss edition. Rule 3, resistance is required. They're just out of arm's reach if you're watching the video. I have my bookshelf behind me. There's a new book that I just recently read called Do the Work. Yeah, it's called Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. I've actually read his last 3 books, The War of Art, Turning Pro, and Do the Work. And the whole premise behind all of his bodies of work is resistance is required. If you are going to go change your life, if you're going to do anything worthwhile, if you are going to alter your family tree, if you are going to allow yourself to be happy, transform your life, your mind, your emotions, your body, resistance is required. Literally signing up to go, all right, I'm ready to change my life. It's like me signing up and saying, I'm going to start a business. Well, it's going to get fucking hard. It's going to be rocky. It's going to have some challenging days, and resistance is required. So if you feel resistance, it means you're doing it right. A lot of times people on this journey of weight loss and changing their life and getting healthy and living longer, everyone thinks there shouldn't be resistance, or resistance is like a sign from God that you're not supposed to be doing it. Whereas it's a sign you're doing it right. Think about that. Like, resistance is the sign you are doing things the right way. You having shortcomings, you having pitfalls, you having struggles, you feeling a level of resistance going into these things, it means you're doing it right. You have to understand, from psychology, your mind and nervous system crave what's most familiar. So if you, let's say, have been sedentary, you haven't watched what you ate, you haven't held space for your emotions, or whatever the case has been, and now you are changing those things, your brain's going, fuck, no, we might get hurt. We might die. Nope. We've been this way for so long. Why change it? But if you keep the same, you're going to keep getting the same results. So if you're comfortable, it means you're not changing your stuff not fast enough. You're not changing your stuff enough. This is why if you have a little bit of resistance, oh, I know what to do, but I don't want to do it. Resistance. Oh, I'm not motivated. I don't feel like it. Resistance. Man, I've always distracted my emotions with food or with work or with scrolling or whatever, or with my kids. But I really, sitting with my emotions is scary and uncomfortable. Good. That means it's the direction you need to go. Or, man, I've always worked out every single day. And Jared's saying work out 3 days a week. Resistance. Oh, I've only ever eaten 1,200 calories a day. And Jared's saying we should eat more and come out of our diet and our deficit and eat maintenance and all this stuff. That's scary. Good. That's the direction. Here, guys, here's something that I'm very open about. Whenever I coach people, whenever I find the thing that they're resistant to or scared of, we run headfirst into it, and it's always their breakthrough every time. Someone who has never sat with their emotions and they happen to emotionally eat, guess what? You sit with your emotions, your emotional eating will stop. If you've always restricted your favorite foods and it causes you to binge, the first thing I'm going to do is fix your relationship with food so you don't restrict anymore, and so it stops the binge. If you feel like you have to work out 7 days a week, I'm going to have you go to 3, because we have to address the ego in this old pattern of I have to work out all the time. If you are scared to eat chocolate, I'm going to show you how to eat chocolate and lose weight, because whatever it is you're resisting is going to hold you captive. Resistance is always required. The problem is, a lot of you listening to this, you're expecting one thing but enabling the other. You want freedom, but you enable mental incarceration. You want frictionless fat loss, but you enable chaos and overwhelm and micromanaging. You say you want to not have to think about it, but then you do plans that are completely overwhelming and unsustainable, they take up every waking thought of yours. We cannot enable one thing and get the other. It doesn't work. We cannot enable chaos and find peace. It doesn't work. So half of the struggles, probably more than half, to be honest, that you may be going through is that we're not leaning into resistance. Whatever it is, I can't even remember who said it, but it's the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. Because when you fear something, there's resistance there, right? So for you, understand coming into this game, if you're like, man, Jared, I want to change my life. I want to be the one that changed the whole course of my family tree. I want to fix my stuff so my kids don't struggle. Cool. You better be ready for a fuck ton of resistance. And that's just how the game works. But it's so good. It's like the concept of pressure is a privilege. It means you're doing something worthwhile. Your old self doesn't want to change. Your ego doesn't want to change. Everything from us that psychology teaches us and our physiology is we just want to stay complacent and stagnant. But this thing, it's like in your heart is like, man, but I want to go over there. But I want those results. I want to live that life. I know there's this thing inside of me that's like, no, you can be better than this. You deserve better than this. I know you were taught this, but there's something over here for you. Lean into that. I'm telling you, like I made a post on my Instagram story the other day. I was cranking out the other night. I was working really late. I was working on my book. And I ended up cranking out 2 more chapters that I was really psyched about. But I made a post on my story because I sat down to work on my book more, and fuck, man, I am getting all new levels of resistance with writing this book. Like even right now, like I'm like rubbing my arm, getting like uncomfortable again, just even thinking about it. I'm getting challenged writing this book. I've been creating content for years at this point, consistently. Across the board, like it takes nothing for me to throw on a camera and talk like this. But fuck, something about writing a book triggers something, a pattern in me that fuck is getting really uncomfortable. Every time I think about writing my book, I get anxiety. Every time I sit down to write my book, these patterns are coming up of what is everyone going to think? What if I fuck this up? What if I say something wrong? What if I'm out of my wheelhouse? What if I'm an imposter? What if I'm actually shouldn't be talking about this stuff? What if I have to make this perfect? If it's going to be a published book, I have to make sure this thing is perfect. Maybe I should just not, maybe I should wait. Maybe I should just be a little bit more practical. Like guys, that shit is coming up for me whenever I sit down to write my book. But the cool part is that means I'm onto something. I know. That's resistance. That is resistance so fucking hard. And I know the resistance is there because there is something magical on the other side. I know if there's this much resistance around writing my book, I should write 5 books because it's there. So whatever resistance you're feeling or you're facing, you need to really lean into it and go, that is the sign to go this way. It's like light turns green. That's your sign to go. When resistance turns red in your life, that is time to run that red light and you go into it. I'm facing the same thing. I'm going through the same thing. I'm right there with you. I'm one of you. If you're listening to this, I'm literally just like you. I just happen to like to talk into a mic. That's it. So realize resistance is your key. Okay. I got a little long-winded on that one. All right. Number 4, 10 rules for how to change your life, health and weight loss edition. Where'd I go? The work will be boring. 10 rules for changing your life, health, and fat loss edition. Rule number 4, the work will be boring. What I mean by that is, you're supposed to get bored. I had a piece of content. I just said that I think the reason you're not where you want to be is you just don't do bored well. You don't do boring well. Societally, no one likes to be bored right now. It's like every 7 seconds we have to get our phone out. I'm guilty of that. If you watch kids shows, watch how long on a kids show it takes for them to change the screen to a different like angle or whatever. It's because attention spans are lower and people get bored. So losing weight and changing your life is supposed to be boring because it has to be practical and sustainable. It's going to be boring. So imagine that there's resistance and it's boring work. That's what you have to understand. Because if you look at any area in your life, you're hyper successful, it's boring as fuck. How about brushing your teeth? You've brushed your teeth the same exact way for the last 30 years. You even start on the same side of your mouth, the same upper or lower, inside or outside of your teeth. You shower the same way. School, going to work, paying your bills, feeding your dog, feeding your kids. All the things that you've been most successful with long-term are boring. You literally doing the same way. You put your pants on the same fucking way every day. But when we come to weight loss, it's like, no, I got to be motivated. I got to change things up. I had someone tell me recently, they're like, Jared, I'm the kind of person that I need things like really mixed up for me to stay bought in. And I go, so do you shower differently every week? Like I normally, when I shower, I start on my left arm like this. I can't tell you the last time I started like on my foot. So I go, so do you change how you shower every day? Or like, if you put your clothes on, if you normally start with your pants, do you start with your shirt? Do you change the hole you put it in? Like left arm, right arm? Like, or is it we have this double standard for weight lossy things? We use it as a crutch and an excuse to say, I have to be entertained to keep my buy-in all the time. But meanwhile, in every area in your life, you're on fucking autopilot and your whole life is boring. we have to be real with ourselves. It's supposed to be boring. It's a core value in my coaching program specifically. And I'm guessing if you're listening to my podcast, you probably think I know a thing or two about what I'm talking about. In my big boy coaching program, the ones people pay me, and I've been doing this professionally for the last fucking decade, for context, the second stage of my coaching program and one of our core values is boring fat loss because it's supposed to be. We do the boring work. I promise you don't want it to be not boring. Again, like I said before, you can't enable one thing and find the other. You cannot say, I want fat loss frictionless on autopilot and not have to think about it. But then you say, I don't want it to be boring. I want it to be exciting. I want it to be changing every fucking 4 days. And I want to da-da-da-da-da. No, it has to be boring if you want those things. It's how it works. So instead of fighting and say, I'm not the kind of person that can do it bored. Well, then you're not the kind of person who gets results. Sorry. How about you go, oh, I guess there's a skill set or in a character trait that I need to work on is I need to do boring better. I need to do better at doing the boring work like every other area in my life. Okay, moving on. Oops, not changing the typing. There we go. All right. 10 rules for how to change your life, health and fat loss edition. Number 5, man, I'm dragging through these. I need to speed up a little bit. Number 5, you can have whatever you want, just not as much as you want. The way that I teach when it comes to food and fat loss, yes, the surface level stuff, calorie deficit, high protein, whole foods, all that nonsense. But here's the thing. A lot of times people think there's still foods they should not have. I had a lady yesterday applying for coaching. She goes, Jared, is the way that you work, like, is there any foods I'm not allowed to have? I go, oh yeah, you probably shouldn't have foods that are rotten. You probably shouldn't eat raw chicken. There's when sushi masters make blowfish, there's a poison sac they have to take out. So you probably shouldn't eat the poison sac. So it was a joke, but otherwise, long story short is no, of course there's not foods you can't have that are off limits. But here's the caveat with anything food related. You can have anything you want. You just can't have as much as you want. You want pizza? Awesome. You probably shouldn't eat a whole pizza though. Right? Downstairs at my house, my wife ran to Costco the other day and got a bunch of groceries and she brought home some cookies. There's a bucket of delicious Costco cookies downstairs. I know I can have them whenever I want. I just can't have as many as I want. So I had 1 or 2. But I didn't sit down and binge the whole bucket of cookies. Again, you can have whatever you want. You just can't have as much of it as you want. Right? From a health and fat loss perspective. Because if you have as much of it as you want, then the health and fat loss stuff is going to decline. Right? But you can make this kind of like a cheat code for you where anything you, like I talk about in my other content, anything that you want, you have it just in moderation. Don't eat it like an asshole. You can have, again, whatever you want. You just can't have as much of it as you want. But that doesn't mean you don't pull an all or nothing card going, oh, if I can't have as much of it as I want, I don't have all of it. Like that's, you know who does that? Toddlers. Nobody, sorry, you can't have the M&Ms yet. We have to eat first. Or you can't have this right now. You can play with your toys later. We have to clean up these other toys. Well, I don't want my toys at all. That's what toddlers do. But I know a lot of fucking adults who go, oh, if I can't have smash the whole box of Oreos, I don't want any Oreos. Like, okay. Well, we have some stuff to work around there. We have some all or nothing mentality. We have some belief systems. We have some catastrophizing going on. And we also have a lot of behavioral things around that food. We have the relationship to fix with food. Just because you currently struggle with not smashing the whole thing of Oreos or wet food doesn't mean we should just give up all of it. That's kind of, again, a very all or nothing approach and kind of like how a toddler acts versus maybe we should go, well, currently I struggle not overeating the whole box. So how can I approach this where I can have some and not have all of it? But if every time you approach food, you go, no, I can't start. Once I start, I can't stop. And if I can't have all of it, I don't want any of it. It's just easier to have none of it. That's a very closed-minded frame of mind. That's a very closed-minded approach, which is not appropriate. And again, if you want freedom around food and fat loss and you want to love you the way you look and feel and have all the experiences around food, we have to fix that. But if you keep tying to that, you'll never happen. Number 6, you need to, this is a big one. Number 6, you need a strong reason rooted in avoidance of pain. What I mean by that, sorry, my legs are getting uncomfortable. Okay, so you need a strong reason rooted in avoidance of pain. Here's the thing. I'm a tactical guy, right? Like when people come to me, it's because they need tactics and strategies around this stuff. Well, you are going to have some rough days ahead. The resistance is going to get fucking real for you. And there are going to be days you're going to want to quit. You're going to want to throw in the towel. You're going to want to say, fuck this stuff. You're going to say it's not even worth it. Those things, those patterns and triggers are going to come up even though they're not true. And your why will not be strong enough. Hate to break it to you. We hear right now in the personal development and coaching space of, well, what's your why? You need a why that makes you cry. I love that. That's great. But when you are ready to throw in the towel and every fiber in your body says, I want to stop, and sabotage and resistance is fighting you, the happy, positive why is more than likely not going to be strong enough. Psychology shows us that there are two things that drive human behavior: pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain. But every human's a little bit different. Which one is the bigger driver for them? But I think when it comes to this industry of fat loss and transformation, avoiding pain, this is just my opinion, is a little bit stronger. When you're ready to throw in the towel and like every fiber in you wants to give up, I think your positive why, like, oh, I just want to be happy in my own skin, is not going to be strong enough. I think it's, I'm going to die early if I don't get this shit figured out, or I'm going to miss out on all the events over the next 20 years because I'm not comfortable in my own skin if I don't fix this. Which one's more strong? Which one's stronger? More strong. Which one's stronger? Again, this may be just my prerogative, but in my experience doing this for a decade, more than a decade, I found people are more persuaded in their actions by avoidance of pain. Not by, oh, I want to have all these experiences, and thinking about that is, I'm going to miss out on this trip. I'm going to miss out on all these experiences. I won't be present on Christmas, whatever it may be, because the FOMO hurts. The fear of missing out hurts. So one of the things that I talk about in my academy and with my clients is, I call this the hell list. What's going to happen if you don't fix your shit? Go back to number one. No one's coming to save you. Well, let's say you don't save yourself. What's on the table for you? I ask this a lot when people are applying for coaching, and or when I'm like coaching someone. I go, well, what's going to happen? What's on the table for you if this doesn't get fixed? And most people go, oh, I never even thought about that. It's interesting. The people, like someone who says, man, I want to love the way I look and feel. I just want to be confident in my own skin. And I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And they've been trying to lose weight for 40 years. And I just go, so what's going to happen if we don't fix this? And most people go, I've never thought about that. That's a problem. No judgment that this is a really big turning point for you then. Because if you are not aware of the bad shit that's going to happen, if you do not show up for yourself, how can you expect yourself to show up when days get hard? Think of it this way. Which is more of a driver for you for brushing your teeth? You want white teeth, or you don't want debilitating cavities hurting your mouth? Which one's a stronger driver to brush your teeth? When you forgot to brush your teeth, you're laying in bed and you're like, fuck, I need to go brush my teeth. Which one's a bigger driver for you? Well, I really want my teeth to be white, and I really want to have a nice smile. Or, bacteria is literally going to be building on my teeth for the next 8 hours, trying to dig a cavity into my enamel. Right? Which is a bigger driver for you? Probably the pain of a cavity. Right? It's these kind of things. It's a perspective shift. Again, I don't think we need to live in the darkness, but we need to be aware of it, because when shit is going to get real, you are going to want to throw in the towel. Every fiber in you is going to be resistant so hard. When you are about to have your biggest breakthrough, the resistance is going to be at the greatest height. And sometimes your positive why is not going to be strong enough. And you have to have these reasons ready to go as a sword to pull out to fight this thing. I'm telling you, the way Stephen Pressfield words the things in his books around the resistance is, he calls it like you're literally slaying the dragon. The dragon is the resistance. Here's the crazy part, but it's in you. If I shipped you to the moon right now, the resistance is still going to be there. It's inside of you. This is why you are your own hero. You've got to be your own savior, and you're the only one who can actually come in and save the day. So you need a strong reason rooted in avoidance of pain to why you're doing this in the first place, so you can pull that thing out when the days get hard. Number 7, home stretch. Number 7, appreciate motivation, but never rely on it. I'm going to say something that is, may upset some people. If the reason you are not showing up for yourself and the thing that is stopping you from getting to where you want to be is you don't feel like it, or you're not motivated, you're not ready. you're not ready for this. Because imagine if someone said, oh, I don't go to work because I don't feel like it. So I'm letting my family starve. You probably would have an issue with that. Or if someone, let's say you knew a parent who wasn't feeding their kids because they go, I'm just not motivated. I don't feel like feeding them. I just don't want to get off the couch. You probably would say, too fucking bad. You signed up for this shit. You have a kid, go feed them. I don't care if you don't feel like it. I know it's different. There's a level of difference there, but there also isn't. There's also a level of, if you rely on motivation and that's your make or break thing, you're never going to make it. Again, it goes back to the whole concept from earlier is no one's coming to save you. Literally no one. You can't bank on motivation or feeling like it. Because imagine if you said, oh, I don't go to work unless I feel like it, or I don't feed my kids unless I feel like it, or I don't pay my taxes unless I feel like it, or I don't feed my dog unless I feel like it, or I don't clean my house unless I feel like it. I don't do the things I know I have to do to be a functional adult if I don't feel like it. You don't let that shit slide anywhere else. But when it comes to this stuff, so many people do. And again, this might be triggering for some of you. You guys may get upset with this, and that's okay. Again, I know my content's not for everyone, but I'm saying this to help you, not just to make you feel good. But also, if it is triggering, that says there's something there. Something I've learned in therapy is if something is triggering to me, it means there's a bruise that's being poked. It means it's mirroring something. Excuse me. It means there's something here that needs worked through, right? It means there may be some truth to something. There may be something there. Maybe not even truth, may or maybe not, but there's something here that that if something triggers me, I got work to do around something. So if me saying this triggers you or any of these, that means there's something there we need to work through. Right? So you have to understand that one of these other rules, again, here's the thing, for context, this is the 10 rules for how to change your life, health and fat loss edition. And then number 7, right here is appreciate motivation, but never rely on it. It's just one of the rules. You don't have to live by it, but don't plan on living a long time or getting your fat loss results. That's it. Right? If these are the goals that you say you want to live a long time, you want to be healthy, you want to be the example to your kids, you want to lose the weight and keep it off and never struggle ever again, awesome. You're not going to be motivated. Resistance is going to be at an all-time high. If you can't show up when you don't feel like it, if you are not able to execute unmotivated, or if you're not able to consistently have unmotivated action, you don't have it right now. You're not ready for the results because you can't show up when you don't feel like it. People say, Jared, how do I get motivation? I go, unmotivated action. That's it. Think about it this way. If I've been sitting doing nothing and breaking promises to myself and struggling like a motherfucker and haven't moved in whatever, I don't do anything with my nutrition, I don't do anything with my inner game, I don't do anything with my movement, and I've literally half-assed or slacked off on this stuff for a long time, but then I think I need to be blessed by the motivation fairy to I'm going to go do this now. That's not how this game works. That's I always compare it this way. It's like your kid not applying for jobs, but then waiting for the job to call him. It's no, he has to go put in applications and then maybe one day the job will call him when he's doing those things. But if he's sitting there going, no, I'm waiting for a job to call me. You're that's not how this works. You have to go apply for the job and then they might hire you. Motivation's no different. You don't just sit here, wait for motivation and then to be blessed by the motivation fairy. No, a body in motion stays in motion and a body at rest stays at rest. So if you're sitting doing nothing and you say, I'm going to start tomorrow and I don't, you're expecting to be motivated from that? Think about how kind of crazy that sounds. I'll put it this way. If you have a friend or an acquaintance who has done nothing but blown you off, anytime you say, hey, let's go do something, and you go and they just leave you hanging, they don't show up for you, they talk to you like shit, they treat you like shit, and they aren't reliable to you, are you motivated to help them? Probably not. Well, if that's how it is on a relationship with another person, that's how it is on a relationship you have with you. If you talk shit to yourself all the time, if you don't have a good track record with yourself, you say, I'm going to start over Monday and don't. I'm going to get up and do cardio and don't. I'm going to start doing this and you fuck off. You're unreliable to yourself. You are showing yourself you have poor character and integrity with yourself. If you do not do the things you said you would do, We have integrity issues around yourself. Again, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying you have bad integrity everywhere, but with you to yourself, if you say, I will do this and don't, it's a character issue. It's an integrity issue. And you're not going to feel motivated. That's not how psychology works. But if you start showing up for yourself, if you start, when you're not motivated, executing and being consistent and showing up for yourself in all these different ways, you will slowly start to find motivation, but then some days you just won't have any. I went through a fucking 3-year stint where I was consistent. I was showing up. I was going to the gym. I was doing my work. I was doing all my things, and I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to for 3 years straight, but I did it anyway because that's what adults do. We're aware of the consequences of our inaction. And then if that's truly a desire of ours, the thing that we want, so this bad thing doesn't happen, we show up when we're not motivated. That's what adults do. So it's no different than any other area in your life. So this is why one of my 10 rules is appreciate motivation when it's here, but we cannot rely on it. Moving on. Number 8, shift your identity to who you have to become. Man, these are just in such a good order. Your identity controls everything in your life. Your identity is who you act in congruence with 90% of the day. The subconscious mind is on you're on autopilot like 80, 90% of the day ish. And, but the question is, well, what are you on autopilot to? It's who you think you are. So it's the version of yourself you're convinced that you are, right? So for example, I had a call with someone the other day applying for coaching, and she goes, oh, Jared, I'm a procrastinator. So it's no wonder when she goes on autopilot, she puts things off because it's in congruence with who she thinks she is. Or, she was saying she's a binger. Not just binge eating, but she's a binger. All she does is binge. She's binge eating for so long. It's just who she is. So when she goes a couple weeks without binge eating, guess what happens unconsciously? She starts to binge eat because it's in congruence with who she believes she is. Now we look at my clients who we fixed all this stuff and they start showing up for themselves on autopilot and they go, what? It's just who I am now. Oh, I don't feel like, I got to go to the gym, man. I don't feel like it. And their husband says, well, just skip it. And the wife goes, no, I don't do that anymore. That's not who I am. They get offended because it's in their identity. They're a promise keeper. It's in their identity that they do these things. That's where the magic happens. So the question you have to ask yourself is, it's not how do I get, it's who do I have to become who gets. So in practicality, not how do I lose 30 pounds? It's who do I have to become who loses 30 pounds? I have to become someone who has great integrity with themselves. I have to become someone who shows up for themselves when they're not motivated. I have to become someone who works through resistance to get to where they want to be. I'm someone who is consistent. I am someone who, whatever. You're labeling character traits and personality traits. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a great author around this stuff, says to change your personal reality, which is what you want, you have to change your personality. Personality, your character traits, these things, because those dictate the personal reality you're going to have. So this is why number 7 on my list of rules is you have to shift your identity from not how do I get, but who do I have to become who gets these things? Because if you stay the version you are right now, you're going to get the results that are in alignment with who you are, which is where you're at right now. You have to realize you're receiving right now on the level in which you are. So if you aren't happy with your results, you have to become another version of yourself, and then you'll receive those results. So it's simple. What do I want? Let's say to lose 30 pounds. Cool. Who do I have to become who loses those 30 pounds? Now all you do is align all of your actions with that version of yourself. That's it. It's not easy, but it's simple. Because it's not a matter of like visualizing that person. It's you have to do what that person does. You have to actually become that person. Because the only way to permanently shift your identity is do the things that version would do. Hopefully this is making sense. All right, moving on because we're going longer than I thought. Number 9. We have one more after this. So rule number 9, honor all of your wins, no matter how small they seem. You have to understand this. Let me grab a book. If you're watching the video right here, let me make sure it's good for both cameras. What you want is this book, not this book, but like, let's say the results you want are like the equivalent of an entire book. The book in my hand, this is just one of Gary Vee's books. It has roughly, let me turn the page. It has roughly 241 pages. Okay. This book is 241 pages. So let's just say you go, Jared, I want to lose 30 pounds. And let's call that 30 pounds this 241 page book. Well, The problem is, in order to get through a 241 page book, you have to turn the page how many times? You have to read 241 pages. So if you're watching the video, let me ask you this, and maybe on the mic you'll be able to hear this. When I turn the page, did it look like any progress was made in the book? Of course not. There's 241 fucking pages. So if I turn the page again, did it look like I made a dent in this book? Of course not. But did I turn the page? Well, yes. Did I turn the page? Well, yes. Did I turn the page? Well, yes. So if every time I turn the page, I'm making progress in the book, should I not be excited about the win of turning the page? I should be, because here's the truth. If you are willing to dishonor or discount a small win of turning the one page, you will discount the whole book, because your transformation is made up of micro wins. Showing up here when you weren't motivated, stopping a binge eating session here, losing an inch here, dropping a quarter of a pound here, wanting to quit but not here, your belly getting a little bit smaller there. But if every time you start to have a win, you discount it and go, oh, well, I'm still fat, or I still have this much more weight to lose. Oh, but Karen at work lost 30 pounds. I've only lost like 4. Well, the problem is every time you have a win, you're getting closer into your book, but your book is only made up of 241 pages. Your transformation is made up of hundreds of micro wins. So if you're going to discount one win, you're going to discount the whole transformation. So in my house, we honor all wins, no matter how small they may seem, because that's what we do. Because if you'll discount a small one, you'll discount a big one, because the big ones are made up of the small ones. But also, this is programming your brain. I did a talk in the collective the other day on the reticular activating system and fat loss, and how when we honor our wins, it's programming your brain to go find you more and open up space so you can subconsciously act in congruence with the things that you want. It's powerful. But if every time you win, you go, nope. Every time you do well, you go, not good enough. Every time something good happens, you go, it should have been better. Your brain's going to go, they don't want to see these. Let's just keep hiding them from them. And then you're going to go, wow, I'm doing everything right, but I'm not seeing progress. Then you're going to quit. So one of the most tactical things you can do is actually honor the wins that you're experiencing. All right. And lastly, 10 rules for how to change your life, health and fat loss edition. Number 10, don't compare to anyone else because they're lying. Let me put it this way. I've been in this internet coaching game for a long time. Most of my friends are in this space. And I know an absorbent amount of people who are in this space who may do things a little bit unethically. And I know we're in the space of AI. We're in the space of Photoshop. We're in the space of, it's crazy. I didn't know you could Photoshop for videos and you can't even tell it's seamless. There are some people who are so good at AI that you can't even tell it's not even an actual human. Okay. Too often in the internet space, not even just internet and social media, but in general, you only see a highlight reel. So I cannot tell you how many, almost every person in my life I've ever been like, man, they have it all. A couple months later, I find out behind the scenes and I go, I never would have guessed, whatever it may be. That couple who's just like, fuck, they're like the dream couple. They never have an issue. They're on the brink of divorce. Or the person who just has so much money and it's like, man, they're just so successful. They are stressed and anxious all day or about to like go bankrupt. Or the person who seems to have all their fat loss and fitness together, maybe throwing up after their meals, or maybe haven't gone on date night in the last year and a half because they don't eat more than 800 calories a day. You see what I'm saying? Where you not only you should not compare to everyone else, but the people you're comparing yourself to are more than likely lying. They're not showing you the dark side of things. They're not showing you the whole picture. I literally had a coaching colleague, I wouldn't call him a friend, a colleague or an acquaintance that I know in the coaching space literally said, oh yeah, I basically will do like a bodybuilding prep and starve myself and I'll take about 300 pictures and that's my Instagram for the next year. So he'll be sitting 30 pounds heavier, 40 pounds heavier, eating Cheetos, laying on his couch, but he's posting pictures on Instagram like they were today of him shredded to the gills because of when he took those 300 pictures. You see what I mean? There are even Instagram accounts who are now calling people out where like they're going and photoshopping and like right now, if you watch like in the video right now, you can see the straight lines in my bookcase behind me where you'll see someone standing in front of a bookcase in this straight line of this like piece right here. If you're watching the video and you'll see it be warped because they like Photoshop their waist in, right? So, and even if the people you are following aren't like that, they're still probably not showing you the dark side of everything. because no one wants to do that. No one wants to come online and bitch and complain and woe is me. And a lot of people are worried about what everyone else thinks about them. I literally made a post the other day on my Instagram, because again, I try to show you guys all sides of everything. But even in my life, I'm not, every second of my day isn't documented. But I did the other day, I did a photo dump. I said, I haven't done a photo dump in a minute. Here's life as of late. And I'm like, training been consistent, been getting this 2 new purple belt to use, traveling been a little bit slower, been getting consistent with my reading, had more sushi nights with Shelby. And all it is highlight reels and me showing you my cool life. But then I also made sure to say, okay, cool. Now it's easy to post things like this, which are just a highlight reel. So here's some of the things that I'm working through that's not so pretty. And I gave 4 things that are struggles of mine right now. Like right now, I've been struggling with my work and life balance personally. So there's been a lot more events I've been missing. I've been on my phone way too much lately. And I have not had as many date nights as I want to with Shelby, or has been as connected as I should be. Because of these new levels I've been going to, I've been having a lot of internal patterns been coming up. I've been going through several, what I feel ego deaths, which is hard, which is the highest resistance I've ever felt. For me, I've had to draw some major boundaries in my life. I got some individuals in my life. This isn't the appropriate place to get into all of it, but I've had to draw some of the biggest boundaries and cut certain individuals out of my life entirely that I never in a million years thought I would have had to. One of the hardest things I've ever done. Like this, if you guys remember the time of filming this, within the last couple months, the last couple months, I got really, really sick for 2 weeks at a time. And I just 2 or 3 weeks, I was sick straight and I never get sick. It was because of this stuff. I was so stressed and so upset because of this one instance with someone in my life that I never would have had to thought I would have had to have this very difficult boundary setting conversation with. I got sick for 3 weeks, right? You don't see this shit. Now, here's the thing. For me personally, I don't try to hide anything. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't consciously try to hide things. Right? Of course, there's going to be levels of subconscious stuff, but this is me who tries to show you everything in my life without coming across like I'm whining or anything. I just want to show you everything so you have a full picture, so you don't just view me as another highlight reel fucking influencer-y person. You know what I mean? But the reason I say this is because the people that you're comparing yourself to, you have a very biased view of them because they're only showing you what they want to show you. They're not showing you how some of them may be extreme. They're not showing you them eating 500 calories a day. They're not showing you the Ozempic shots they're taking that they're embarrassed about that they're not sharing online. Right? Again, not to say if you're taking that to be embarrassed, but I'm saying is I know people who act like they have it all together and they're in secret, taking Ozempic shots and taking hormones and doing all this other stuff. And they don't want anyone else to know about it, but they're selling a detox or something like that. Right. There are things like this. So be very careful who you're comparing yourself to. And just by proxy in the social media online world, they're probably lying. Someone who's the lost 21 pounds, they rounded it up to 30. Oh yeah, I've already lost about 30 pounds. No, it's 21. Well, it's lying saying it's 30. You see what I mean? So those are my 12 rules for how to change your life. Health and Fat Loss Edition. So to recap, I'll just read through these real quick. Number 1, realize no one is coming to save you. You're your only hope. Number 2, you don't have to do as much as you think. You just have to be more consistent for longer than you think. Number 3, resistance is required. Number 4, the work will be boring. Number 5, you can have whatever you want, just not as much as you want. Number 6, you need a strong reason rooted in avoidance of pain. Number 7, appreciate motivation, but never rely on it. Number 8, shift your identity to who you have to become to get what you want. Number 9, honor all your wins, no matter how small they seem. And number 10, don't compare to anyone else because they're lying. So that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this was a longer one for a solo one, but like I said, I woke up at 4:30 this morning with this idea, made some notes, and wanted to come right into the studio and record and talk about this. Otherwise, I appreciate you being here. Before you leave, I do have a couple things for you. Number 1, thank you for being here. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Now, number 2, in the description, I have a lot of stuff for you depending on where you're at. If you are newer to my content and this whole fat loss stuff seems totally not quite normal, you're wait, you're saying I can eat whatever I want and do less things and all this stuff. It goes against diet culture and what you may be used to. So if you have not gone through my free course called the Fat Loss Checklist, it is in the description below. And it's where I basically walk you through A to Z of how to lose weight with the least amount of effort possible. And it's going to probably reframe so much for you. It's going to make weight loss so much simpler, so much easier, where you don't have to give up your life. Okay. Number two, if you have not joined my Facebook group, because if you're, let's say, on your own on this and you're like, man, I just wish I was around more like-minded people to get ideas from and to like learn more about this kind of stuff, you should join my free Facebook group called Fat Loss Simplified. At the time of recording this, we are about to we're about to crest 10,000 people in that group. As soon as we hit 10,000, I'm going to do the hella huge giveaway. More on that later, but join that as well. There's a link down below. And then what else? Lastly, if this is the kind of stuff you're like, man, I need a little bit more one-on-one help with, and I think I could use some more hands-on attention, and you would like to coach or see about the possibility of coaching, because I have a couple different things. Depending on when you're watching this, I do have one-on-one coaching, and I also have a coaching group. For different, depending on what is a better fit. But either way, I'll leave the info below where you can either apply for coaching or get on the wait list for the group or whatever the case is. That way you can get more information. Oh, also, I'm going to start making sure to do this. If you need anything, you can literally text me. You can literally text me. I'll leave my phone number that you can text me on down below as well. Whether you need anything, if you have questions about this stuff, if you are having issues getting into the fat loss group, or you want to apply for coaching, whatever it may be, you can text me. I'll leave that number below. Otherwise, that is it for today's episode. I love you, and I will talk to you next time.